All right, I'm going to go through a little video on how to graph some data using Desmos. So this will be useful for the week 6 lab that Mr. England and I have set up for you. So let's say you've collected your cooling data, and I've got two trials. You're supposed to try a control with just a cup, and then you're supposed to try and insulate a cup. And so you'll have two trials worth of temperature data, probably about 20 minutes. Now you might have data for every minute. I've just abbreviated mine. I did the first 5 minutes and then a 8-minute mark, 10-minute mark, and 20-minute mark. So with any data that you have, you're going to have to transfer it into Desmos, unless you're clever and you just type it in as you collect the data right into Desmos. So you just open up a web browser, go to Desmos. Actually, it'll look a little bit like this. Okay, so you'll click graphing calculator. It's also a good idea to sign in with your school account, and that way you can save your graphs, your data sets. So once you've got it, you need to type in your data set. So the way you do that is you hit add item, which is that plus symbol over on the left. We're going to be graphing data, so we need to add a table. Now, I recommend just leaving the X and the Y alone, and those are going to represent our variables, so time and temperature. I know there are ways to format them and to label them there. We'll just label our axes when we're done. So I'm going to type in my data. Oops. I think it went 5, 8, 10, and 20. Okay, and you'll also notice this looks a little small. I can either zoom in my web browser, or Desmos has this thing called projector mode. It just makes everything a little bigger. Sometimes it's useful. I kind of like it, especially when we're in class. Okay, and then for Y1, you're going to type in your temperature data. So let me go where I can see it. How come that won't pop up on top? Okay, so 195, 167, 152, 140, 131, 120, 110, 100, and 99. Now I'll start with just one data set. Okay, so I've got this here. You'll notice I don't see any data points plotted yet. Well, if you look, my window is kind of small. Now you can zoom out using your scroll wheel, but this is not ideal because it scrolls out in both directions. So what we want to do, instead of getting our data like kind of scrunched together like this, because we definitely didn't have 400 or 300 minutes worth of data, we're going to adjust the axis. So what I want to do, in my X column I had time, so I'm going to graph from, and Desmos makes this really easy. You can put in your minimum time and your maximum time. So I said for x-axis, I gave it the range 0 to 20. I can also label it here, so I could say time in minutes. Okay, and let me hide my picture. Okay, so by typing in 0 to 20, time in minutes, and then for the y-axis, my temperature minimum was 99, so I could go, and I think my next data set gets a little cooler, so maybe I'll go down to 50. And I'll only graph up to 200. So I'm graphing 50 to 200, and that's my temp. And I think I did mine in degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, now, again, it kind of cuts things off so you can recenter things. So if you want it to look a little nicer, I could zoom out a little bit with my scroll wheel. But there's my cooling data, right? It stops out at 20 minutes. If I can center it and make it look nice. Okay, for the second set of data, you can actually come back to your data table, and if you have the same time increments, then you can type in your Y values, your temperature values right beside it. So you start out by typing Y2, and it will give you a new data set. Okay, so the trial 1 is Y1 and trial 2 is Y2. And I'll pull this up. Trial 2, 195, 170, 160, 155, 151, 145, 130, 120, and 118. Okay, so actually this one looks like it stayed a little warmer, so maybe this is your insulated cup. All right, so I have my two sets of data plotted, and I can discuss. It looks like my trial 2 cooled at a slower rate, and it had a higher final temperature. It only cooled down to 118 degrees. The other one made it down to 99. And this is a really good way to show your data sets. Okay, I've got two different colors, right? I've got them here, and I can then go in and I can save my graph. So first thing to do is to give it a name. So you can click on untitled graph, and we can call this like week 6 lab, so that you know what it is. And then if you want to send it to Mr. England or me, okay, then you need to share the graph. Now, we don't want the link, okay? We don't want the link. I think what's going to be nicer is if you can save a picture of your graph. Now, to do that, you hit the share button. You can go to export image. I recommend when you export it, scientific graphs are usually done as rectangles. So you have different options here. You can do a small square or a large square, but I think medium rectangle makes the most sense. Okay, and then for line thickness, your preference, I think it's kind of nice to read it on medium. And then you can click download PNG, and that's just the image file. So you'll see it, save it. It's in your downloads folder now. And when you open it up, right, that's what it looks like. So there's your graph. I'm going to copy this and paste it into my presentation just to show you. Paste. Okay, so you guys will be able to attach this file, your results, attach that to the Canvas assignment. So Mr. England and I would really like to see, instead of just you taking a picture of your data table, we'd really like to see a graph of your results. Okay, so you can explain why your insulated cup, or how much better your insulated cup was using this graph. And so if you guys have any problems, let me know. Desmos is a really useful tool for use in math and science, and so it's a good idea to get used to it. Okay, so good luck, and hope to see your results.